I'm Jody Avergan. Have you heard of Blue Apron? Well, now you have. Blue Apron's mission is to make incredible home cooking accessible to everyone. The country's #1 fresh ingredient and recipe service, fresh, high-quality ingredients make the difference, so it's important to know where your food comes from. Plus, it's affordable, easy, and full of surprises. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals for free with free shipping. You will love how good it tastes and feels to create home-cooked meals with Blue Apron, so don't wait. Go to blueapron.com/30 for 30.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miami Dolphin fans.
Yeah.
That feeling that you felt in the strip club last night, be careful with it. It might have felt like love. It is not love. Do not pour yourself into this investment.
But it was fun for a night,
She was looking in my eyes. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I can fix her.
Yeah. I'm the one.
I'm here to rescue you.
I mean, you are really going to like Jay Cutler to Devontae Parker. If the offensive line allows time for it, that is going to be something to behold, because Jay Cutler, his entire career, has been redundant with I don't give a bleep, but now it's I don't give a bleep dragged out of retirement.
Yeah.
So it's like stand back.
Extra Biggie size, I don't give a bleep.
No, I mean, he should break the huddle with an erection. Like just and just that.
That erection is smoking a cigarette too.
No pads, no uniform, no nothing. Just go to the mat. Just go for the break the huddle to reveal a nude Jay Cutler, him smoking a cigarette, his erection smoking a cigarette, and stand back, everybody.
What an arm!
That's amazing.
What an arm!
It really is.
Well, how about this one? Let's get back to a conversation. And it's a little early to be gloating, and I don't mean early in the morning. I mean early in what I'm about to say.
Okay.
But last year, a whole lot of people got mad at me because I was saying in a variety of different ways that if Jarvis Landry is your best receiver, your offense isn't going to be good enough. He cannot be your best receiver. He's got to be your second best receiver.
Yep.
And people got really mad at me because they like Jarvis Landry. And he's reliable, but you need somebody who's a game breaker. And you drafted some that high because you believe him to be Odell Beckham. You believe him to be game breaker.
Well, you believe him to be a number one. I don't know if you believe him to be Odell Beckham Jr., but a number one game breaker. The
argument I was having with everyone last year was, hey, Jarvis Landry's not a number one.
Right.
It's the argument I was having with everybody, and they were yelling at me because they fell in love with, and your offense isn't going to be good enough if Devontae Parker is not better than Jarvis Landry.
And to your point, your offense is going to be pretty good if Jarvis Landry is your number 2 wide receiver.
Correct.
That's it. It's like when Brandon Marshall is your number 2 wide receiver, you're going to have a pretty good offense, and that's what the Dolphins have down here if Parker could do this in the regular season.
All you were saying essentially was Devontae Parker, the player that they invested a high pick in, needs to be their number 1 receiver. That's not a hot take. That's not a hot take.
Do you remember? You remember how mad everyone got at me because Jarvis Landry was putting up good numbers for them, but the offense was going to be constipated, and Jarvis Landry can't do what that was last night. He doesn't have it in him. He could go 70 yards with the pass he catches at 10 yards, but not the play that Devontae Parker made last night, where he's just more athletic than the people around him.
Many of the people that got mad at you for saying Jarvis Landry can't be your number 1 would be angry at you if you said that about Devontae Parker without any sense of irony. Someone has to be the number 1, and it's the guy that looks like he should be a number 1.
I hope that guy stays healthy because I feel like everybody's looking at that guy expecting one of these, fantasy sleeper seasons where, however it is that you guys do this, where you project out numbers on people that surprise you.
He's a breakout guy.
He is a guy at the high end of the list on breakout.
It's funny because you're so right on Cutler. 108 of the yards he threw for last night, 72 were on that pass to Devontae Parker, in which Jay Cutler had nothing to do with it. Like, it wasn't a good pass. Devontae Parker is just a better athlete.
Well, that's another thing that Devontae Parker can do for you. Man, if you've got a mistake-prone quarterback, it's nice to have a guy with such a margin for error that he gives you a wider berth on mistakes. Yes. Because Odell Beckham did that for – it's funny, Ben McAdoo gets the credit for sort of fixing Eli Manning's interception rate.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened there actually is Odell Beckham arrived with a way of giving him a bigger margin for error.
Right. I think he's had his best 2 seasons, Eli, or best 3 seasons since Odell has showed up there.
But
right?
It's funny because McAdoo's getting the credit for that, but it coincides with a transcendent talent like Odell Beckham. And Devontae Parker is a special physical athlete, and you never really got to see it last year. He's not even in those 3 catches for 57 yards games. That's not right. He's 100-yard. He's 1,000-yard receiver, and we haven't seen that from him.
Right. That's a good point. The year before Beckham got there, by the way, Eli threw 27 interceptions. Since then, 14, 14, 16. Like, he's been really good since Odell Beckham Jr.
But what I'm saying is, if you've got a quarterback who is mistake-prone, and Cutler's got a better pocket presence and awareness than Tannehill, but he's going to fumble sometimes in a way that's going to enrage you.
Yep.
It's going to enrage you.
Did it last night, right?
Yeah. But if you've got a guy who is error-prone, it's really nice to have a guy like Devontae Parker, where you've got that was a throw that could have been intercepted. It wasn't a good throw.
No,
I mean, it was just a big-armed throw.
It was a little bit behind him. He threw it up in the air. I mean, Devontae just went up and got the ball.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, you could do that. You can't do that with Jarvis Landry.
No, of course not.
Keem made the observation that it was sort of surprising to see Devontae Parker make an adjustment to the ball. I think in part because he hadn't really been put in the opportunity to say, hey, go win this for us because I can put it up there for you accurately.
I know many of you listening to me right now remember that Dolphin game where Tom Brady and Randy Moss came down here, and Tom Brady just threw a ball like a punt up in the air into double coverage, and Randy Moss came down with it because Tom Brady just knew, just throw the ball in that general area.
Also because he wanted it more than Cameron Worrell.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's not even the play I'm talking about. That was a different play. The Cameron Worrell play was a different play. Cameron Worrell.
I'm looking at the play right now. Oh, my God.
There
were 2 guys there. He just threw it up, and Moss he's in the end zone, and
Moss was good.
Randy Moss was, oh, my gosh, here. Yeah. Just look how much good player.
I mean,
2 guys, he's double-teamed.
But what I'm saying is
he caught it with one hand. One hand. The other hand was being dragged by one of the Dolphins defenders.
That's what I'm saying, though. That's not a good pass.
Well, one of the Dolphin defenders was Cameron Worrell on that one. How many times was he victimized? Poor guy.
Here, Mike, watch it. Here. You see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tom Brady, back to pass.
Just throws it out.
At his own 45-yard line.
55 yards.
Poor Cameron Worrell.
It's just absurd, though. That's not a good or smart pass unless you're throwing it to there's really only one human being on Earth running down the field that's smart to do that with. In the history of Earth.
He pushed off there, though, Moss.
Yeah.
He did.
Well, wanted it more.
Yeah.
So you were absolutely right about your Jarvis Landry take. But,
thank you.
But we can congratulate you on that, but we got to even things out. How wrong were you on Jay Ajayi?
Woo! Yep.
Wrong.
Yep.
You were wrong.
Didn't I take that back, though, later that show?
Yeah, but let's revisit about how wrong you were. Wrong.
But I took that back later that show.
Loud wrong.
Within the same show?
Loud wrong.
I felt like...
No.
I don't
know if it was the same show.
I felt it was the next segment.
No, it was the next 200-yard game.
Yeah. I don't think it was the next segment at all. No. I mean, funny how we remember things differently.
Loud wrong.
Wait a minute.
Wrong.
Loud wrong.
Hold on. I'm willing to concede wrong. I don't have any problem conceding wrong, but hold on a second.
Seems like you do on this
I just want to get the facts. I want to get all the facts.
Right.
Before I comment. Before I bow.
Just a guy.
I did say that. I feel like I walked that back the next segment, though.
No. You never do that, man. Come on. You would be swayed by a single segment or me or a couple of texters. I mean, come on.
No. Jay Ajayi.
It was definitely 200 yards.
I'm not saying I do it often, but the reason that I remember having done it is because I don't do it often. And for some reason, as it relates to Jay Ajayi, I thought I walked back fairly immedately. I didn't believe I commented just a guy until after the second 200-yard game.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. Keep trying.
Great talk with you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Hey, great take on Jarvis Landry.
Okay,
Nailed it.
all right. But since we're doing this is I love to make fun of Kornheiser because whenever it becomes, when PTI becomes, I got that right. Like they're talking about some topic, and I predicted that Wizards game, and like nobody cares whether you got that right or not. But I got the Marlins right 2 nights ago when they lost 8-0. I'm wrong though about last night when they win 9-8.
Marlins
Can't win them all, Dan.
Yep.
Can't win them all.
Yep. Are you suggesting, by the way, that after the second 200-yard game, you said Ajayi was just another back?
Yes.
So I think this is where it turned because he had 206 against Buffalo. He had 214 again against Buffalo. You said it after the second Buffalo game, and then it took a week. Then he went out and had another 200-yard game against the Steelers, 204.
Steelers.
Then on Monday, you said you were wrong.
Steelers.
It was about a week, not a segment.
It was the Steelers game.
Yeah.
I feel like
Steelers game.
Steelers game.
Yeah. 8.2 yards per carry against the Steelers.
Mm-hmm. Was it Timmons that was vomiting because Jay Ajayi was just punching him in the stomach the entire game?
He runs hard, man.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Not like a regular guy.
Not like just a guy.
Oh.
I felt like I took just a guy back the next segment. But anyway, Mike Pouncey, do we know what his health status is? Because oddly enough,
I know exactly what his health status is. He'll play 8 games this season. You'll hope that he's ready, but he'll take an extra week, and he won't be practicing, so don't look for tips there.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, have you seen the numbers on what Ajayi does when Pouncey plays and when he doesn't? When Pouncey plays, Ajayi, it makes you laugh at me. When Pouncey doesn't play, Ajayi is what I said for one segment that he was, which is just a guy. He's like 60 yards a game when Pouncey doesn't play.
Is Pouncey possibly the most important guy on that team?
They drafted him higher than anyone has ever taken a center, and he was supposed to be really good. And when he plays, he's really good. But I don't know how it is that you keep a guy healthy once he starts breaking down like this. And he left the game last night. How serious is that injury? Do we know? Because that matters. As guys fall left and right for the Dolphins before the season starts, that one matters. Their offensive line is already hurting, and you are just begging. You're begging the way the state they're in right now for Cutler to get hurt, and you're going to have to throw Matt Moore out there. Like the state of that offensive line right now is such that if guys keep getting hurt or if Cutler gets hurt, you're going to end up with the Matt Moore experience. And can we be done with the Matt Moore experience? Like, can that be just
it's not like he's a young kid either. He's basically Steve DeBerg at this point.
I know, but I've got to say, speaking of things I've been wrong about, I got to walk back something I said like 2 weeks ago where I said that Kaepernick, I could see where the Dolphins could make the argument to themselves that Matt Moore would be more valuable as a backup than Kaepernick. And that's moronic of me to say.
Right.
7 hours ago, Miami Herald put out Pouncey emerges healthy.
Yeah, he's fine.
Thinks he's ready for the season after dry run.
Yep.
A lot of people laugh at what does a center do? You snap the ball. You can't really tell what a center does when you're watching a game. It's very important. Not only assignments, but take Alex Mack, for example. Not a sexy name. You take him off the Cleveland Browns, who admittedly, always terrible, but they were extra terrible, and you put him on the Atlanta Falcons, they become a Super Bowl team.
But it helps when your quarterback's Matt Ryan. And you have Julio Jones, because if he was that good, he'd be able to do it anywhere.
Remember how bad the Falcons were previous.
Right, but hold on. This is one of the things, though, that I love about that sport, how we covered that sport, and how little we actually know. How many people watching a football game would have any idea whether or not the center is playing well?
Less than 1%.
Yeah.
Give me all of the times in all of the games that you've watched football where you remember how the center played in your entire...
You haven't drafted Cameron Irving as your center. Oh, my God. Woof! You know when they're playing bad, I'll tell you that. You know when the dude is not Alex Mack.
That's right. Okay, fair enough. You do know... Well,
you notice him when he's not there. I think that's fair.
I'll give you that you notice him more when they play poorly, yes. But I'm asking you again... Do you ever remember a center playing well? Because it's such an asinine thing to think that we invest so much in these Sundays and we know so little about what we're watching that after the game's over, we call sports radio and offer our critique. But if the sports radio host were to ask us, hey, how do you think the center played today? It would be so disorienting that we would run screaming from the phone and just jump into a nearby lake.
I remember always being told Alex Mack was good and trusting him because I never really saw plays, implode from the center position. And then we switched to the Kyle Shanahan offense, and all of a sudden he was going on these stretch runs and zone running scheme, and he was out in space. I'm like, hey, look at him. This guy can move because he's in space. So that's really the only time I can ever notice if a center's any good, if they're running.
I love all these people texting, and they're just texting his name, Dwight Stevenson. Okay, go ahead and name a single thing that he actually did that you remember.
No, I will grant
the people who saw Dwight Stevenson can text.
Well, but no, hold on. That's not true because I understand everything that's happening here. I am the tipping point on age on this because absolutely I do remember the greatness vividly of Dwight Stevenson, and the reason I remember that he was a great center is because everybody was always telling me he was a great center. I don't remember seeing him be a great center. I remember watching his games and everyone, ooh, he's a mauler. I'm like, all right.
That's what you do with centers, though. It's like my friends would tell me how good Nick Mangold is. I was a Jet fan. I'm like, okay. All right, sure. If you say so.
There are four guys standing in front of him. I can't even see him on the television. I see his arm.
It's a really stupid thing when you think about
it. From people that play the game, they say it's maybe the second most important position on that field in terms of just schematics.
Right. But we have no idea unless we botch a snap. Unless a snap gets botched, you will have no idea what your center did if he missed the game, you wouldn't notice.
I get really excited when the person who's snapping the ball, the center, takes his other arm and starts pointing at stuff because, he's recognized, he's doing
super
something.
Smart, yes.
We are lucky to have this person that recognized who the mic is.
Yes, the mic! And we're watching at home and we're like, yeah, that's the mic! And
get him, Mangold, get him!
We're pointing at the mic. That's the mic!
Way to go, Tim Ruddy! You did it! You pointed.
What are people doing here via text? They're just texting names. Mike Webster, Jeff Saturday.
I remember that Tim Ruddy game.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Don Le Batard.
The reason Stugotz is tired is because he is using every available outlet to, at all times, spew his sports opinions. He comes in here, I look up, and by way of hello, I've got his phone in my face recording me, asking me for opinions on things because he is insatiable.
Stugotz.
Yeah, I'm on television right now. This is the pizza. Oh, this is delicious. This is so good. Let me walk outside. Let me get on Facebook Live and Twitter Live. These are the peanut M&Ms. Oh, I forgot something. Let me go over here and grab a selfie stick. Let's do Facebook Live today. It's Facebook Live Friday.
It's all for the show, man.
That's what, yeah.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on the ticket.
So, Mike, the rejoin you played there was about how insatiable Stugotz is and why Stugotz is always tired around here because at this point he is a virus in the entire system of ESPN, okay? Like he is something at the core of whatever ESPN is. Stugotz has now infected it and is trying to spread to every artery.
Yes, it's fair.
I know it's fair.
Yeah.
So, but
got to slow down, man.
But it's not just that, though. Mike, I'm not kidding you. This is what Stugotz was telling me during the break.
Oh, no.
Stugotz is telling me during the break about listening to Mike and Mike on the way in.
Yeah.
And DeMaurice Smith was on.
Yep.
And Stugotz can't not be giving opinions for any period of time. Mm-hmm. So he not only starts texting Booger McFarland, who's in the middle of that interview, he starts texting Mike Greenberg, too.
Yeah.
Both hosts, while they're doing the interview with DeMaurice Smith, Stugotz, who thinks he's entitled to every orifice of ESPN, starts texting the hosts and telling them what to do.
Just trying to help the guys out, man. Being a good teammate. That's all I'm trying to do. I only texted Booger during the DeMaurice Smith interview. I texted Greeny when they were discussing LeBron James and the meaning behind his tweets yesterday about burning jerseys. And I told Greeny I was fluent in LeBron James, and what he was doing was really telling Cleveland, hey, when I leave you again in a year, don't burn my jersey again. That's what he was doing, because that's how LeBron sends his messages out. With the condescending DeMaurice Smith, who wasn't very nice to Booger McFarland, who's a former NFL player, by the way, and a former very good NFL player. He was condescending to Booger. He was telling Mike and Booger how he was dropping his kid off at college today, and the kid's on a lacrosse scholarship because all the players in the NFL can relate to that. And then what DeMaurice Smith was doing was complaining about all the things that are wrong with the relationship between the players and the owners that DeMaurice Smith himself was in charge of and negotiated. What are you complaining about? You negotiated this stuff, and then Greeny tried to defend DeMaurice Smith, and I told Booger there is no defense of DeMaurice Smith. He's the guy in charge. He's the reason the players have the deal that they have. Period. End of discussion. Unfortunately, Booger agreed with me, but he agreed with me after the interview was over. Because some of the stuff he wrote back, I would have liked to heard during that interview. But I love Booger. Booger and I are friends. But he folded like a cheap suit.
You sounded just like Donald Trump there.
I know.
I love Booger. Booger and I are good, very good friends.
The Boogster. We are. We're good friends. I mean, we're making golf plans later on this fall. I love Booger. I think he's excellent there, but he caved. That was a bad job. And a terrible job by DeMaurice Smith. Complaining about stuff that you negotiated. Please, get over yourself. And being condescending towards a guy who's a former player. Because he asked you a question about a guy who wants to try to take your position in a year, and I can't pronounce his name.
That was deftly done by you, right? Where you just folded all of your hot takes into...
Got them all in.
The segment. You also...
Thanks for the window.
Yeah, well, I didn't want the window. I wasn't trying to create the window. I was trying to talk specifically about the idea of you feeling entitled to bothering Booger McFarland and Mike Greenberg while they work. Because what I'm telling you is that if anybody at ESPN, who I don't actually have an intimate relationship with, was texting me during our show, their opinions about everything going on in our show, that's not a number that I would have very much longer on my telephone.
That's fair. It just dawned on me that Booger, well, neither of them have ever texted me during this show. I mean, they're on the air now, but I know Greeny listens 10 to 1.
That's the part I wanted to talk about. While you went off, careening like a balloon losing air in your hot take. What I wanted to specifically talk about is
I'm sorry.
If you would abide anybody doing this to you. That's where I was trying to head with the conversation. The idea of not just anybody, but somebody from another show that you don't actually know that well.
Right. Well, I feel like Greeny and I are pretty good friends. I feel like we are. I could be wrong on that. And Booger and I, it's a blossoming relationship. And listen, you're right. I'll stop doing it. Because the only one who does it to me is Baselli, and that's when he wants to call you a meathead.
All right, hold on a second.
Dan, I just feel like I want to help guys out, I mean...
I think you and I define good friends differently. How many times have you been in the company of Mike Greenberg?
Let me think. 3, maybe? 4.
Can you be good friends with somebody?
I think after you play 18 holes of golf with someone, you spend 4 hours, and it's just you and him, by extension, you become good friends.
Is that it? Okay.
I think so.
All right.
I think that's fair. It's a rule for life.
Those are the rules? Okay.
Yeah.
So, I get it. So, it's a round of golf or an ordeal of some sort. Like you and a buddy, a helicopter crash together, and then there's bonding in the experience.
Right.
Because, you had to think for a moment about eating each other's flesh.
Right. When you don't know each other that much, you're on the golf course, and you've just met, and it's 4 hours. It was just me and Greeny. That's a lot of time to fill, man. You have to be okay with the uncomfortable silence. It can't be uncomfortable. It just needs to be natural. And we arrived at that place. I think that'd be a good poll question.
Well,
if you play a round of golf with someone, are you then friends for life?
Well, and get along.
And get along. Well, right. I feel like we get along. I don't.
No, I'm not saying you don't.
I'm not saying that we do. I know I like him. I'm not certain how it works.
But I'm just, for the poll's purposes, the only way to get a good answer on that is you can't say if you play around a golf with someone, are you automatically friends for life? Because there are plenty of people in that group. You've had bad experiences with people in foursomes, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I've had friends to start. I've had friends who were friends on hole number 1 who weren't my friends after the 18th hole. Yes. Mike was almost one of those guys.
Dan Le Batard.
Here is almost the only thing I know about the draft. The Dolphins got a guy who had Chewbacca at his party.
Stugotz.
What's his name? Chris Harris?
Charles Harris. It's a fine linebacker from
Man, Stugotz is
Mizzou.
Stugotz is
He's not a linebacker. Is he a DN, outside linebacker?
It says outside linebacker.
All be 3-4.
Yeah,
pass rusher.
4.840 from Missouri.
Does he have the skill set and the reflexes to be as fast as Stugotz is finding me when I get a name wrong?
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz on the ticket.
They just put up on the screen here on ESPN here projected stats for Devontae Parker, and they had him at 940 yards. You'd be disappointed at this point if that's all he gave you this season, right?
Yes, people. I think Dolphin fans are expecting more than that from Devontae Parker. I know they are.
When's the last time we've had that particular experience? Do I need to go back to Ricky Williams, where the acquiring of a skilled talent or somebody going into a Dolphin season?
Maybe Mike Wallace? Were people expecting big things that first year?
Yeah, because they made him the highest paid receiver in the league.
David Boston.
That's a good one.
David Boston, I said. You didn't have your headphones on?
David Boston.
David Boston.
Oh, wow, David Boston. That was a long time ago.
David Boston.
Yeah, Boston.
David Boston. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
David Boston.
You good? Can you hear? No, seriously.
You good? Can you hear me?
You good?
Thank you.
hear
I
me?
got it. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. But yeah, like Marshall, Boston. Wallace, Boston, guys like that. Yeah.
You'd have to go back. Keith Jackson at tight end. That's a long time ago. But the Dolphins haven't done a lot of skill guys who give you a burst before the season starts and you're really excited about it.
Tony Martin.
That's going back to Marino.
Yeah, and they traded Irving Fryer for Fred Barnett, I believe, and that was somebody that people got excited for.
I'm not even talking the thing that you guys are talking about, and I get that. I understand why that's happening. But when you say Tony Martin, the thing that everybody got excited about there was the idea of Dan Marino using that big arm with somebody who at the time was the fastest guy in the entire league.
Right, and some of the guys we just named were already established guys. This is a rookie that you took.
That's what I'm talking. Right. I'm talking about something just a little bit different than that. He's not really a rookie. He's in his second year.
But it's a guy that they drafted. Yeah. It's not a guy they acquired via free agency or trade.
We really disrespected Brandon Marshall, too, in the previous game, so let's get this right, though. Young talent that they've acquired.
Yes. Stugotz disrespected Brandon Marshall.
I did.
By calling him a number 2, and I don't know why you even did that.
Well, no.
He is a number 2 right now.
No, I was saying how good your offense is if Brandon Marshall is who's usually a number 1, is a number 2, and that's what he is with the Giants.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
I was saying that we were disrespecting him by leaving him off that list.
Right, okay.
And he kind of delivered.
Right.
Yes, he was. He was very good for them. Thank you. Yes. Regardless, I'm not even talking about free agents. I'm talking about a guy, because those guys, you're excited, but you've seen them actually do something. You've seen, when we're talking about the free agent acquisition that people are excited about, you're excited because you've seen his greatness. When I'm talking about Devontae Parker, I feel like everyone is expecting him to have a big season this year, and the only proof of that is we haven't seen it. So the only proof of that is it's something you saw in college or the athleticism you saw last night.
What he looks like in a uniform. Ronnie Brown, probably, in terms of young talent you've drafted highly at a skill position that you were expecting a lot from.
Regardless, the larger point, and thank you for your help with this conversation, but the larger point I was making is it's pretty rare for this feeling, to have this feeling before a Dolphin season, where you're going to be throwing to a guy who, when he's in the uniform, he kind of looks like what you expected from Yatil Green a million years ago, and he looks like one of those Julio Jones guys that you want to have on your team.
He looks like he can be great. You're right. He looks like potentially maybe he could be something close to Randy Moss or Julio Jones or something like that, and it's been a while since the Dolphins have drafted a guy where you kind of have that feeling headed into the season. But they saw some glimpses last year. Like you're saying, you saw some stuff in college, you saw last night's play. There were some plays he made last year.
I think that because I think the arguments that I was getting into last year when I was saying your offense isn't good enough if Jarvis Landry is your number one, it's sort of some of these arguments that you get, the Supreme Court argument on pornography. I know it when I see it. Jarvis Landry, I watch him play, and I know when I see it. That's solid. That's serviceable. That's not game-breaking elite among athletes. Devontae Parker, you look at him the same way you just watch it. Julio Jones run down a field.
Yes, or A.J. Green or something like that.
Yes, that kind of guy. And Beckham doesn't physically stand up to that, but when he starts moving and catching the ball with one hand with an incredible wingspan, he becomes that, jumping gazelle-like, but even though he claims he's not a gazelle. But who are some other guys? A.J. Green, Julio Jones. Like you're talking about the very most elite. Jarvis Landry can't be that. He's not good. He's not good enough to be that.
No. In terms of what he looks like when you're watching a game on television, we'd all agree Antonio Brown is a similar body type. He doesn't jump off the screen at you, and he's arguably a top 3 receiver in the league, if not top 3, the best.
But isn't he an outlier in terms of body type? Isn't now when you think of, if I make you go off the top of your head with great receiver, aren't you going right now to the body types that are Randy Moss, Larry Fitzgerald? Aren't you going?
I mean, I'm going Julio Jones first. That's like Julio and A.J. Green.
But Calvin Johnson, like you're going all the guys who look like Devontae Parker.
Correct. DeAndre Hopkins is another one.
Yeah. I mean, Jerry Rice was 6'2", but he didn't give off imposing at all.
Yeah, but I don't know what you're doing there, Mike. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yes,
he's trying to make a case on the other side.
Well, because somewhere around Randy Moss, the receiver, the freak receiver that you wanted in your offense looked like Terrell Owens, looked like Braylon Edwards even.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They stopped looking like Jerry Rice.
Terrell Pryor.
Right.
In terms of body type.
Mike Evans.
Doug Baldwin's a good receiver. He's their number one receiver. He doesn't look like what you would think a number one wide receiver in the NFL would look like.
Right. Mike Evans, we're really using a lot of words to say big and tall,
Big, tall.
Yep.
Yeah.
Big, tall guys.
Black.
Jarvis Landry, the difference between Jarvis Landry and Devontae Parker is that one of them is big and tall.
Also, Matt Jones was big and tall. He didn't look like Mike Evans.
He was. Matt Jones.
Wasn't it? It was cocaine, right?
Yes, cocaine.
Cocaine.
Well, that was the word association I was just doing in my head.
Yeah. Cocaine, car, credit card.
Well, I associate the Jacksonville Jags wide receiver position with like a Bermuda Triangle of curses, death, and addiction.
Right? Jimmy Smith, no one really talks about him, I guess because he was quiet, but he sort of has a Marvin Harrison quiet type.
But speaking of this body type, Blackman.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
You're going to put that on the sauce. That's a shame.
Would have been so good.
But that body type, right? That's the body type we're talking about with Devontae Parker. Basically, Jacksonville, that place is cursed. But you go and you get Blackman.
You're afraid to say his first name, right?
That's right.
You think it starts with a J, but
no,
you think
it does start with a J, but I don't want to.
What do you go? Venture out.
No,
venture out.
Do I get immunity?
Jerry.
No,
immunity.
No. Immunity.
You know which
J
Blackman?
Justin.
Yeah,
you got it. Nice.
I was afraid to say. I was afraid to say his first name because I was afraid to get fined because I was going to get it wrong. What did you make his first name?
Jerry. Jer.
I mean, if not for Jerry Rice, do you realize how absurd it would be to have a wide receiver named Jerry? Because when I say Jerry, you think of someone who looks like Seinfeld? Jerry Rice has really screwed this up or made it better for all the other Jerrys.
Yeah,
because if
he's
I
really
tell
helped
you,
Jerry's out. Yeah.
If I tell you the Jacksonville Jags just drafted Jerry Blackman to play wide receiver, you boo. But it's Justin. Okay, all right.
I think even armed with Jerry Rice, you'd still be upset at Jerry Blackman. I do. I feel like that.
Well, but you really fouled this up. When
Jerry
he said
Blackman?
Jay, you just were so eager to get in there that you jumped in there with a Jerry and you made him an accountant.
Jerry Blackman from accounting.
That's right. But anyway, it's the Jacksonville Jags position. Give me another one like it in sports, where you've got a specific position, 3 wide receivers that have gotten swallowed by substance abuse.
This is a good game. Let's all think about it silently while we're on the radio.
Cursed positions in sports.
Abuse.
Well, or doesn't necessarily have to be substance abuse. I feel if you can find a position that had car crashes for whatever reason, any freak thing.
Does it have to be
that
3?
ties them?
It doesn't have to be 3. It just has to be more than Jacksonville. It doesn't have to be by quantity more. It has to be by quality better than Jacksonville. For example, if New England had another tight end that did something horrific, New England's tight end position would be more cursed than Jacksonville's
They do. Just no one cares about the things that he does.
Does this count? New York Mets. Cocaine.
Yep.
No, I need a position. It's not a team. That doesn't count.
How about an entire team?
No, because I could do that with any one of the baseball teams in the 70s or 80s. I could do it with all of them.
Blazers draft picks. Injuries. It's not as good as the Jaguar receiver.
Mike, I was making it a position on a team that was cursed, that's got a burial ground haunted around it.
Well, I mean, Cleveland Browns quarterbacks, but there needs to be a specific reason other than they all suck.
No, just not right. And it can't be just that they're all terrible. It has to be that they're terrible, and also being terrible made them depressed and lapse into substance abuse and to be really big busts. Aren't all 3 of the guys we're talking about in Jacksonville first-round picks? Weren't they all first-round picks?
I'm not sure if Matt Jones was a first-round pick because he was an experiment. He was a quarterback.
Was Jimmy Smith the first round? He had to be, right?
Yeah. You think Jimmy Smith?
I got to think Jimmy Smith was a first-round pick.
Was he an expansion draft guy?
All those guys who were fastest player in the league.
Because I thought the whole deal with their mid-'90s
he was
receiving core.
He was a second-round pick, Jimmy Smith.
Their receiving core in the mid-'90s with McCardell and Jimmy Smith, these were guys that nobody wanted, and then they came back and were close to Hall of Famers in Jimmy Smith's case.
Matt Jones, I think, was a first-rounder.
Wow, they invested a first-rounder?
So you got 2 first-rounders?
21st overall. Yeah. Whoa, that was a bad pick.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Woof.
I mean, yeah, he was a big, tall, but don't you remember what a great athlete he was? Like he was a quarterback. I would have wanted that. I would have invested 4 years of my college team's future in everything that guy did at quarterback.
He wasn't that bad early on either, and then the booger sugar got him.
Nose nachos,
nasal basil,
cocaine.
It is so weird. I have to explain to the audience because I feel like Stugotz thinks he's always on television. And so even though we're just doing radio, I want to take you inside the show for a second here so that you can get a clear look at what just happened there, okay? So Stugotz says cocaine, very obviously contributing nothing to the conversation. And is so delighted with himself that he immediately goes to the furthest corner of the studio because he knows he did a funny. And so I can see like his elbows, he's got his back to me and he's got his face buried in what looks like a bank vault door as far away from me as he could possibly be. And the reason I know that he's feeling something that's laughter and shame is because his elbows are a darker red because of how he's laughing and his shoulders are shaking. And all he's waiting for is the Hakeem Nicks laugh. And so then when he gets it, his right arm shoots up into the sky, extending a single sausage finger as he arrives at the heavenly gates of joy.
Yes. Highest honor on this show, man.
But it doesn't help me a great deal do the radio show in the minute that you're away from the microphone because you're laughing at your own joke.
Yeah. Well, sorry, man. There are times where I say it, and I just Like, I can't even look at you. I just can't, because I don't know if you're upset with me because I
you don't
completely
care, really. The priority is the joke as it should be.
Okay.
The priority, but you don't know whether I'm laughing, amused, or mad at you. But you went for the joke, and that is why when he's got his back to him, he's also seeking information from Mike Ryan on, do you approve? Because he can't see Mike Ryan because, again, his nose is buried in a bank vault door. And so one of the things, he thinks it's funny, he's pretty sure it's funny, but if he gets the loser game show sound, he's going to be really crushed.
Oh, yeah.
But when he gets the laughter, it is like release, sweet release. And I mean that in a sexual way. Sweet, sweet release.
Yeah. Oh, man. Whew. It's a really tough question you asked before, by the way. I think it's just the Jaguar receivers.
I was scanning Green Bay Packer tight ends to see if any of them got in hot tubs with underage girls. Yeah. It was just Shamara.
How bad do you feel right now if you're the Jacksonville Jags, man? Like, 'cause you set yourself back so far when you draft a Bortles, and it just nukes you for years. Like, I know you guys have your complaints about Tannehill, and it's been boring football that hasn't been excellent, but it could have been a lot worse.